salutiamo tutti, anche Ugo Matteggaro Pezzero, tanti saluti anche da costituzionalisti, da filosofi.
Kur skanduotas Lietuva yra laisva! 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 Lietuva yra laisva.
Thank you.
Freedom! 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 Freedom!
We've taken over the whole CBD. stops when we want it to stop. The moment enough Australians say that's it, it's over.
Come on,
if
Ricardo.
you don't put the tools down, then this will continue until they have killed all of us, and that's what this is about. This is not about health, this is not about a disease, this is about destroying the Australian people. From today, tools down, make whatever excuse you need to, stress leave, holidays, long service, whatever. Close it down and just get yourself through to Christmas. Shut down the country, make it ungovernable up until Christmas, and you'll be fine.
What happens at Christmas, Ricardo?
Watch this space.
Yes, I'm backing you. I'm with you, man.
So am I.
I'm with you.
With you.
Legend. Thank you, sir.
For all those Nova Scotians, the vast majority of Nova Scotians who have answered the call and are getting vaccinated, a huge thank you. To those who could be vaccinated but aren't, who are focusing only on themselves, believing misinformation and false narratives, and more reacting with inappropriate anger, shame on you. You want to share in the benefits of Nova Scotia's strong COVID response, but you're not willing to carry your share of the work.
Rioting broke out in the Dutch city of Rotterdam as hundreds protested against new COVID-19 restrictions. Some heaved objects at police. In response, authorities used water cannons and charged their vehicles into protesters. Dutch police fired warning shots and injured several people, though none of the injuries were life-threatening. Video on social media showed burnt-out police cars and fire crews putting out flames. Crowds were angry at authorities planning to introduce a new law. It restricts access to bars, restaurants, and sports matches to those who have a pass to prove they've been vaccinated, have recovered from an infection, or tested negative for the coronavirus. The Netherlands reimposed some lockdown measures last weekend for an initial 3 weeks to slow an upswing of COVID-19 infections. The country recorded over 20,000 new daily cases for several days in a row this week, a record high since last December.
Well, Chancellor Schallenberg has said it's time for Austrians to get a grip on realities. There are a few details about how this mandatory vaccine program is going to work. How are you actually going to, you mentioned those divisions, how are you going to convince people this is the right thing to do?
So when the first measures started, the will to get vaccinated has, of course, increased. So this is a very good sign. But it will take months to convince the people, and it is, of course, a discussion and a great work of convincing the people. And what we hear now is looking for who is responsible for the situation and not the solution of the problem. But vaccination of people who are not vaccinated is one important step, but it's also a very important step that the people that are already vaccinated will get their third vaccination. But to say it clear, a mandatory vaccination is nothing that's only happening in Austria. And even in Austria up to the 90s, we had mandatory vaccinations in against some diseases. So this will be a very important work of communication, and I hope the government will do it better than they did it the last couple of days, where a lot of mistakes were made.
Where are you going to draw the line? Will boosters, also jabs, be mandatory, for example? How big a political risk is this? Briefly, if you could.
The third vaccination, I think the people are ready for having it. And as it seems, there is no problem of getting the doses in Austria. The greatest problem is to convince the people to go. But with the situation we are now in, that people are in the situation that they don't get surgeries, that hospital beds are not there, that people need and is urgent need, I think that this situation helps that some people think it over and will be able and willing to have the vaccinations in Austria now. The situation is very dramatic, and I think this is the best motivation for the people. Go and get vaccinated.
Tonight, millions of unvaccinated Austrians on lockdown for at least the next 10 days. An order from the government as the country tries to slow the spread of the coronavirus. It will be very consistently controlled. Anyone 12 and older who hasn't been vaccinated are being told to stay home, only allowed to leave for food, work, and exercise. Violators could face a fine of up to 1,450 euros. That's roughly more than $1,600 US, prompting a flurry of last-minute vaccinations this weekend. If everybody gets vaccinated, I also do. 65% of Austria's population is fully vaccinated, one of the lower rates in Western Europe. The entire region back at the epicenter of the pandemic, according to the World Health Organization. Neighboring Germany now reporting record daily infections, more than 50,000. And with cases reaching peak pandemic levels in the Netherlands, officials launched a partial lockdown Saturday, sparking tense clashes among protesters and police.
Germany's anti-vaxxers are on furious form. 16 million Germans over the age of 12 are still unvaccinated. This region, Saxony, has the lowest vaccine take-up in the country and the highest rate of infection. The authorities here now restrict unvaccinated people. They're banned from restaurants, cinemas, football matches.
This is discrimination, and we want to express vehemently that we do not accept this in our society. They say the vaccination is okay, I should give it to my children. Never. I have a feeling that it should never go into my body, and I will fight all I can to prevent it coming into my body.
The German government admits it's unlikely now to persuade these people to accept a vaccine, but it has a bigger problem: how to stop the voice of dissent growing into real social division.
The Philippine Commission on Human Rights warning government about the implications of President Duterte's order to bar unvaccinated people from going outdoors. The CHR says the order may result in undue discrimination. It points out vaccine supply in the country remains limited. The CHR adds such restrictions may also affect the livelihood of unvaccinated individuals, given the absence of aid from government.
Health officials looking into reports some people were vaccinated with mismatched jabs. The details from Jeffrey Hernandez.
The Philippine Health Department is investigating reports of vaccinees allegedly receiving different branded COVID-19 jabs. A couple in Mandaluyong has expressed concern after the husband was given a different coronavirus vaccine. The 64-year-old vaccinee initially received an AstraZeneca shot. However, he was given a Sinovac vaccine as his second dose.
Kahit naman sino magagalit kasi una-una yung pasyente post-COVID, pangalawa, senior citizen, without informing the patient itself na mali yung vaccine. Hindi siya nagtanong, hawak niya yung.
South Korea eased some restrictions at the start of November as it began returning to normal life, but with the introduction of the vaccine pass, not everyone's enjoying the same freedom. Choi Min-jung spoke to some people who are putting parts of their lives on hold because they didn't get their shots.
With most of the population now fully vaccinated, more people are out in the streets finally spending some quality time with their friends. But what about those who haven't been vaccinated? A vaccine pass was introduced under the government's gradual return to normal scheme. Starting November, facilities deemed high risk began to require the pass. This means people must show a proof of vaccination or a negative PCR test taken within the last 48 hours if they want to use the facilities. One of the places that requires the pass is the fitness center, where some people spend the most time besides work and home.
백신 패스 확인하겠습니다.
백신을 안 맞았으면 어떡하죠?
음성 PCR 확인서가 필요합니다. 없으면 입장 불가합니다.
So for me to do my regular exercise, I would either have to get fully vaccinated or test negative for COVID-19 within the past 2 days. This means regular members would have to get tested as many as 3 times a week. Vaccine passes are also mandatory for public baths as well as singing rooms. People don't usually plan on coming to singing rooms days in advance, so those who aren't vaccinated have no other choice but to return home. At nightlife entertainment facilities, negative PCR tests are not accepted. This means partygoers at clubs and bars must all be inoculated. The vaccine pass has prompted some who were originally unwilling to get the shots to finally roll up their sleeves. Due to such cases, some of those who have already been fully inoculated are in favor of the vaccine pass.
I think it's good because it can encourage people to get vaccinated. The more the pass is required, the more people would want to get the shot.
But many others feel that the pass is a form of discrimination.
I think it's an undemocratic way of forcing people to get the shot. I'm also not sure if getting tested within 48 hours is realistic.
The Toronto police say a vaccine mandate is not a crime.
The CTV's John Woodward reports the service has been inundated with complaints from a group of teachers complaining and claiming they've been extorted.
Good to see a lot of people because that tells you that a lot of us are awake.
At this rally at Nathan Phillips Square in early November, a man who identified himself as an educator called vaccine mandates at the Toronto District School Board extortion.
On October 27, 2021, myself and a handful of other staff from the Toronto District School Board went to the Toronto Police and reported crimes of extortion, assault, attempted assault, harassment, and many other charges under the Criminal Code of Canada.
That handful grew thanks to social media, with posts seen by CTV News telling others to file as well, to the point that the Toronto Police Service says they've had enough, telling CTV News, "We have taken 53 reports in relation to the Toronto District School Board and 3 for the Toronto District Catholic School Board. After reviewing the occurrences, no criminal charges will be laid. This is not a criminal matter, and we would ask that people do not report this to the police."
Protesters angry at Victoria's proposed pandemic laws descended on Melbourne's CBD again yesterday in one of the biggest demonstrations seen this pandemic. It caps off a week of ugly pandemic politics and protests with no immediate end in sight.
For months, these streets lay empty as Melbourne became a city crippled by COVID lockdowns. That has lifted, but now it's demonstrations which are repeatedly bringing the CBD to a standstill.
Well, we're here to rally to see an end to vaccine mandates, forced vaccinations.
But people need to wake up and stop calling us the bad ones when we're all here, thousands upon thousands, fighting for everyone's rights, not just ours.
Not one, but 2 different protests. The first fighting Victoria's vaccine mandate and proposed pandemic laws, which would transfer powers from the Chief Health Officer and place it in the hands of the government of the day.
We're here to fight for our rights, our future, everybody's rights, vaccinated or not.
The second, significantly smaller demonstration rallying against far-right movements. An enormous police presence and riot squads were ready to intervene if the 2 crowds clashed, but that didn't eventuate. Relief after an at times disturbing week.
Protest is fine so long as it's peaceful and respectful.
I would say very closely that people need to exercise restraint and decorum and act peacefully and safely.
This is the freest Melbourne has been since the start of the pandemic, but the latest easing of restrictions has done little to deter or distract from the ongoing demonstrations. Among them, independent Upper House MP Catherine Cummings. She helped the government delay a vote on its proposed pandemic bill, avoiding an embarrassing loss and buying it time to negotiate with crossbenchers to shore up support needed to get the bill through Parliament. But it doesn't have the numbers just yet.
There is a risk that crossbenchers will go weak. I hope that they hold firm and actually ensure that we stop this bad piece of legislation.
Others, unsurprisingly, showing no signs of backing down.
Now, we've said all along we accept that they need some sort of powers for quarantine and things like this, but we've said we're absolutely not going to support this idea of having a 2-tiered society like what they've been talking about, especially when they don't even put an end date on it. So they've been saying, well, it'll go through for most of 2022, for example. We just think that's totally unacceptable. People need certainty to be able to plan their lives.
It is a race against the clock. The existing state of emergency powers expire in mid-December and can't be extended. The government has just 1 sitting week left to get the laws through, or it will be left without a legal framework to enforce COVID rules. Andrea Crothers, Sky News, Melbourne.
Hello again. The Commission for Conciliation, Mediation and Arbitration says that some employers have allegedly started firing or retrenching unvaccinated employees. Now, COVID-19 vaccination is not mandatory in South Africa. Let's get you some perspective and details from Director of the CCMA, Advocate Cameron Morajane. Morajane, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Perhaps just give us an idea in terms of the cases that you are sitting with. How far and wide are they, and what are some of the merits?
Thank you very much, Dudu. Yes, indeed. As at on Friday, we had about 10 cases that we received. And fortunately, I can say that by now we've managed to resolve about 3 of the cases that we are referring to. One case which was resolved had to do with the settlement, the reinstatement. One case where parties agreed that, look, the employee must go back to work. So it was agreed, so the matter went back. And then the other 2, they've decided to settle on financial terms, which is, of course, as the CCMA, there isn't much we can do, which we encourage that parties must resolve disputes facilitated by the CCMA, especially when the matter is sitting at, at mediation or the conciliation level. We will be proceeding to about half of those matters. We are proceeding to arbitration now. This is the stage where decisions will be made, where awards will be made, either in favor of the employee or in favor of the employer. We have decided to prioritize these cases because they are of national and international importance. We are